Mary. Hi everybody, that's Mike. Happy St Andrew's Day to everybody. We did say you're going to get some pipes, so we kept it for November 30th, so happy St Andrew's Day. And if you can see us, give us a thumbs up. So we're actually here under the shadow of the castle because our mentor, Mary, from the Scottish Tour Guides Association, is presenting us with our trophy that we told you that we won. So I'll let you introduce Mary here. So Mary?
Yes, I'm neither Mike and I'm not Joe, but it does give me great pleasure on this St Andrew's Day to be here with my colleagues, esteemed, clever colleagues, and to present them with an award, which is the Green Microphone Award. The Green Microphone Award is awarded very seldom to responsible tourism practitioners. And here we have two excellent examples of professionalism who have been flexible enough to bring it into your living rooms, homes, gardens, wherever you happen to be around the world. They've brought a bit of Scotland for you to enjoy through their virtual tours. I think you have a huge audience now. What is your audience, approximately?
I'd be about 13,000.
13,000. And you've grappled with the technology. Was that who was a techno here? So well done, Mike. Well done for all the technology, and well done for being entertaining, informative, for bringing something new to this profession that we all love. So no more words from your mentor and colleague. Congratulations for the Green Mike Awards.
Thank you very much, Mary.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thanks very much.
So yeah, it's a great honour to receive this. I was saying to Mike earlier and to Mary, I said, when's the last time Scotland won a European trophy in anything? So we're really, really chuffed for this. And it's not just for us as well, it's for all the members of the Scottish Tour Guides Association. We're all members of it. I'm wearing my Scottish Tour Guides Association kilt today and my tie. And so we're all trying to do innovative things. We're trying to work hard to make sure that next year when you come to Scotland, you'll be checking us out as live.
Yeah, you may wonder why we were playing the pipes and Scotland the Brave. It's St Andrew's Day today. It's our national day, and it also happens to be Joe's birthday. So special day for him as well. What a great day for your birthday to be St Andrew's Day. So thanks for joining us again, and we look forward to taking you on our tour today. And thank you very much to Mary for the presentation. And it's very much appreciated that our mentor would be coming along today in a very cold day to present this. And thank you also.
Muchas gracias, amiga.
Stay with us because we're just about to start our usual Monday tour, and this time Joe is going to be guiding the Grassmarket. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So we will continue. We won't let this opportunity to go to waste. I'll give that to Mike.
Or maybe let folk have a wee look.
Yeah, take it a bit closer.
This is our Green Microphone Award for responsible and sustainable tourism, and we feel very honoured to have been awarded this. And thank you to the Green Academy for awarding it to us.
Thank you. So welcome back to the Grassmarket area of Edinburgh. We had a couple of requests to revisit the Grassmarket, so thank you very much for that. And we've got some lots of new viewers who have picked up on some of the previous tours and say they would like to revisit, especially on St Andrew's Day when we are under the shadow of our castle here. And what is a lovely sunny afternoon here, but it's just a little bit cold. So we will start in a second or two, we'll take you around, but just taking a little view of the castle at the moment. And you see the afternoon sun lighting it up on top of the volcanic rock. You cannot miss it when you're here in Edinburgh. People often say to Edinburgh when they're looking for directions, they say, well, how do I know where I'm going? We always say, well, if you cannot see the castle, you're in Glasgow, because you can see the castle from almost everywhere. As I mentioned today, because it is a good day for us to get our reward on St Andrew's Day, and it is my birthday, so thank you very much for all your happy birthday wishes that I saw coming up on the phone as well. So we'll just start walking around a little bit. This part of Edinburgh the Grassmarket is very, very historic. We're in the heart of the Old Town. Now, for those of you who have been with us before, you'll know that Edinburgh is split into the Old Town and the New Town. The parts of the Old Town actually go back. We have a building here that does go back to the 12th century, which is up in Edinburgh Castle itself. But we've got buildings here. We're going to talk about some of the history, some of the buildings here in the Grassmarket. Normally, under normal circumstances, this place is really, really lively. If you're ever looking for a place to go drink in or a place to come and eat, the Grassmarket is a great place to go to. Lots of pubs with great food, lots of restaurants here, and it's open normally quite late in the day. So you can go through here 1, 2, 3 in the morning and this place is still buzzing with people out revelling. In a couple of weeks' time, hopefully that'll be all back to normal. There's good news on many fronts with the vaccinations coming, so hopefully all thumbs up and looking forward to that. Now we're just about ready to go. We have got our new camera woman here with us. Her name's Linda. She's standing there. She's very nervous to go walking, so she's waiting on Mike getting ready. We say she's doing her internship with us, but Linda's actually Mike's wife. So thank you very much, Linda, for your camera work here. So Mike's picking up the castle with the sunshine on the castle.
Just have a wee look at the castle just now, and winter sun. I believe we're in winter now. Okay.
So let's move on. Let's give you a little view of some of the old buildings here. As you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pubs all in a row here. On a normal day, they would have all the tables out here. But this is like going back to the original COVID when we first started doing our tours here. People were just coming out of it during the summertime. But a couple of pubs here I highly recommend when you're here in Edinburgh. You get great lunches in here. If you ever want to taste the famous haggis, every single pub will serve you a haggis as a national dish. Don't ask me what haggis is. I will explain to you maybe some other time. But one of the pubs I want to point out to you is quite famous here. Probably it's regarded as being one of the oldest pubs. It's called the White Hart Inn. Now the White Hart Inn has got quite a few literary connections itself. Indeed, this is where Robert Burns stayed when he came back into Edinburgh, and he was going to say farewell to Clorinda. Clorinda, Ms. McElhose, was going to be heading over to the West Indies to try and repair her marriage. And it's said that they met here before they departed, and this is where he got the idea for A Fond Kiss, and then we parted. Also, William Wordsworth and Dorothy Wordsworth stayed here when they were visiting in Edinburgh. And Dorothy's apparently said that it wasn't too noisy and it was reasonably cheap as well. So, if you want a cheap place to stay, recommendations by Dorothy Wordsworth, then have a look in here. Now have a look at the date. I think Mike can pick it out. So the White Hart is the old word for the deer, and you can see the deer there. And if you see a white hart, it's supposed to bring you good luck, or a white deer is supposed to bring you good luck. I don't think it brings good luck to the deer because they're very easily picked off in the mountainside. But have a look at the pub here. It says it's the oldest in Edinburgh, established in 1516. And Robert Burns visited here in 1791. And also is reputed to be the most haunted pub in Edinburgh. Even today, some of the staff members say that they see dismembered limbs and ghostly characters walking around here. So if you want to go on one of your ghost tours of Edinburgh, the White Hart Inn, it's a nice place to visit. Now the Grassmarket gets its name going back to the 1400s because this is where the market took place for horses and cattle. The drovers from around the country would bring their cattle in here to sell the cattle to the city. And so sometimes this would actually look like a major farm. So there was lots of hay and corn here for the animals to feed on as well. That's where we get the name the Grassmarket as well. Now also back in the early 1900s, we had a large influx, or immigration from Italy who came here. And this area was actually known as Little Italy. Scotland has surprisingly got a large population of people from Italian descent. And this is where they first came to, and had some of the. This is when they've got the best ice cream in Scotland. Was down here. I went to school, Catholic school, and our school register was Italian and Irish. So as well as Italian, lots of people who come from Italian descent. There's also a lot of people who come from Irish descent here in Scotland as well. During the First World War, they didn't have the airplanes as such, but you also remember they also had the Zeppelins. And this is exactly front of the White Hart Inn, where one of the early bombs that was dropped by the German Air Force using the Zeppelins came and it landed here. And there is a plaque on the ground here to commemorate the event. I think there was only one person who died during that attack here in the Grassmarket itself, and it said that they actually were taken, the injured were actually taken into the White Hart Inn itself. Let's move on a little bit further. Point at some of the other restaurants here. We've still got some Italian coffee bars and restaurants here. We've got Petit Paris. So if your choice is Italian, French, Scottish, whatever your flavour is, then the Grassmarket can provide you. Ever suits your taste. Now the Grassmarket was also had the reputation of being the place of public execution. And we're going to take you further up and show you where this would take place. The public executions right up to the end of the 1700s were of great entertainment to a lot of people here in the city. And especially if it was a great political execution that was taking place. People would turn out in their thousands here. And it also said that people who were up in the apartments here would actually rent their apartments out. Always good to know where you can get the money from. So they would rent the apartments out. It's almost like a very early version of Airbnb back in the 1700s. They would come right here. And it was said there'd be circus would come to town, there'd be jugglers, there'd be trapeze artists, all coming to see these major executions. I love coming down to the Grassmarket. It's very, very atmospheric, and it's also got a great atmosphere at night time. And if you ever come to Edinburgh at night time and you want to go on your ghost tours, it's a great place to visit. So let's move up a little bit further. We're changing our continents here. We have El Toro Loco, Crazy Bull, for Mexican beer and burritos. More Italian restaurants here. Now, because this was a famous place for execution, there's a lot of stories attached to the Grassmarket. And there's one of the pubs I want to show you coming up here, and it's called The Last Drop. Now, it's not called The Last Drop because that's where you get your last drop of whiskey. It's called The Last Drop because if you look at the sign outside, you can see there's a noose. And again, if there's going to be an execution here, you would get a good view from these pubs here. There we go, The Last Drop. Now, back in the 1700s, there was a young woman, her name was Maggie Dixon. And Maggie was a fishwife, and she lived in Musselburgh, which is a few miles just down the coast here. And she was married to a fisherman. However, one day the husband never came back. We don't know why he didn't come back, why he disappeared, but she was left on her own. It's thought that maybe he was shanghaied into the Navy, as happened in those days. But Maggie was left on her own, and so she had to find another occupation because she didn't have the fish coming in. So she went down to the border areas, and she was working in an inn in a town called Kelso. And Mary caught the attention of the son of the inn owner or the innkeeper, and she fell pregnant. Now, in those days, that wasn't what was supposed to happen to young ladies. It was really frowned upon, and she knew that if she admitted to being pregnant, that she was going to not only lose her job, but probably lose her accommodation, and she'd be destitute with a child. So she hid the fact that she was pregnant, and she actually gave birth to the child, and she left the baby on the banks of the River Tweed. The baby was discovered. Now, we don't know if the baby was stillborn or if actually she'd left it there and it died, but she was accused of concealing her pregnancy and also for abandoning the baby at the time. So she was brought here to Edinburgh and she was put on trial. She was found guilty. You didn't have much justice in those days. And she was brought here to Edinburgh, and she was hanged, get my verb declensions properly sorted out there, and she was hanged. And she was taken to the square right here, and I'll show you the pub here. We're called after Maggie Dixon. So I remember I told you before that if you are famous or notorious in Edinburgh, you'll get a pub named after you. So poor Maggie was taken down here to the Grassmarket, strung up, and her family were here. Now we've also mentioned about the Edinburgh Medical School here, and it was said that if you were being executed, if you were a criminal and you're being executed, the university could use your body for experimentation. And a very unseemly fight broke out between Maggie and her family, or Maggie's family, and the medical students and even the doctors up at the medical department. They're actually fighting over the body. Her family won this battle, put her body on the back of the cart, and were taken out to give her a burial outside of town. However, as they were going outside of town, because the roads were all rickety and the cart was shaking around, whilst the family were stopping for some refreshments and then halfway down, it said that Maggie actually caught breath again and she came back to life, much to the surprise of everybody else. Now in Scotland, you were hanged by the neck, only hanged by the neck in those days, not until you were dead, just hanged by the neck. In England, you were hanged until you were dead. But because she survived, she couldn't be executed for the same crime twice. Maggie went on to live her life for a long time, lived for about another 40 years. Her husband did actually come back, and they got remarried again because death parted them, so they had to be remarried again. And from that day on, from the day that she was strung by the neck here at Edinburgh, she got known as half-hanged Maggie. And we still commemorate Maggie to this day. And on the ground here, hopefully Mike can pick this up, because this is the place of execution, you actually see that we have a scaffold here in the pavement here. So I'll just stand up here. This is where it finishes. I'll give you a walk. I'll walk down the scaffold. So this is where you would hang by the neck. These are the support beams, and it's all down here. Now, the last person to die here publicly executed here was back in 1784. But we've talked before about the religious strife that Scotland went through in the Reformation. We've talked a bit about the Covenanters. Covenanters were religious zealots who supported the Presbyterian faith and were defending the interference of their faith from the king during the 1600s. A lot of them then were taken, arrested, put into prison, and if they didn't die in prison, they were brought down here and they were actually executed. So not executed at one at a time, they were being executed at 20 or 30 people at a time. And we commemorate this with this stone here, and they're known as the martyrs. And so it's commemorates here, it's the spot where it says here, the spot where many martyrs and Covenanters died for the Protestant faith. And we're not very far. We will be visiting in the second part of this tour next week. We will visit the cemetery where they were buried, but also where they were kept captive in the 1600s. So this is the Covenanters. Another little story that I love here about the Grassmarket, and again it's to do with ghosts and wizards, because this is the place where, if you're interested in wizards and the boy wizard, this is where J.K. Rowling's got her influence for Harry Potter as well. And I'm just going to take you around this monument and take you up a little street here, which has all got its Christmas lights on, called Victoria Street. And Victoria Street features in the Harry Potter books and movies, because this is the original Diagon Alley. It's a lovely street. We'll take a little walk up and then we'll come back down again. It is a wonderful street. It's so typically Edinburgh. And you get an idea of the buildings here in Edinburgh. Even on this side here, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories high. If you go to some of the other side of these buildings, because the buildings are built into the hills, they'd be even 10 or 12 stories high. Now this part of Edinburgh is known as the West Bow, and I'm going to tell a little story about an incident that happened here again back in the 1600s. There was a gentleman here called Thomas Weir, and he again was a very much a religious zealot, and he was a major in the militia, very religious. But he got ill, very ill, and during his illness he had extreme fevers, and during his fevers he was uttering all these nonsense about how he was involved in satanic rites and how he was communing with the devil and all these things. So all the people who were with him in his bedside while he was going through this were in shock and horror about this. So he was accused of being a wizard. And he was put on trial for his life and found guilty, and he was burned alive at the stake. His sister was also co-accused, and she was brought down here, and she was hanged by the neck down here at the Grassmarket. And it is said, some people nowadays, even today, they still have this vision of a horse and cart hurtling down here at terrific speed with the wizard himself hanging out, talking about communing with the devil. So there's two stories, the wizard, the boy wizard, and the real wizard of Edinburgh. He was one of the few men who were actually killed or executed for being involved in witchcraft. I don't know if Mike can pick up the buildings here. You can see there's a double-decker street here. You might see the sign for Maxie's restaurant, which is above there. So it's quite a unique little street. All little individual shops. And certainly when you're here in Edinburgh, put it on your itinerary. So going back to the 17th century, some of these buildings here were the tallest buildings in Europe. They're probably the original skyscrapers, but it had a bit of a problem here because there was no running water in those days. No running water meant no flush toilets. So you have to imagine yourself back in the 1600s, say, you're in one of these buildings, you're high up there, you've got rickety little stairs to get up and down, and it's difficult to go up, pitch black. No such thing as lighting in those days. So imagine you're up there, 10 o'clock at night or so, and you need the toilet. You've got no flush water. What do? You use your little potty, or as we call them in Scotland, a chanty. So the potty would be used to be under your bed, but what would you do if your potty was full? Well, it's quite simple. Here in Edinburgh, the windows would open and you would shout, "Gare de l'eau." This is before they introduced the law where it all had to be done at the same time. So gare de l'eau comes from the French gare à l'eau or gare de l'eau, which means beware of the water. Because the whole contents of that potty would come out the window. Not very pleasant, is it? So if you're walking through Edinburgh even today, and past one of these high buildings and somebody shouts gare de l'eau, my advice is do not look up. If you do, keep your mouth shut. My advice, take cover, because you don't know what's going to land on your head. But this is before water came in from the mountains. And when it did come in, they created wells. It was all done by gravity. The water came in, it's brought in by pipes through gravity, was stored up near the castle, and through gravity distributed down to the wells. And I'm going to show you some of the wells here, but this is one of our previous joke shops here. You can see the big nose here. This used to be a joke shop. And I'm so pleased I've kept the big nose there. It's great. But also have a look here at the dates above this one here. 1729.
Yeah, that's amazing, yeah.
So you are just walking through, everywhere you go in the city, you're just walking through history. Some nice tweeds for sale in there. I do like Harris tweed. Always look for the authentic badge on it as well. So let's finish off down here. I'm going to take you to one of the wells, where the
I hope
water
you're
would come in.
enjoying our Christmas decorations. I've just
Yeah.
been, I think you maybe saw the tree earlier, but I think they're looking especially fine on these old streets.
They are.
Yeah.
They do look good, and it's when it gets darker and the old-fashioned. I mean, it's
Yeah.
simple, understated.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mike can pick up this building here, this thing called Hula, and look up and just look at the old architecture they have here in the Grassmarket. Now, the Grassmarket used to be a real slum area, and even when I moved into Edinburgh back in the 1970s, it was still a bit of a slum area, and they had lots of missions here, and the missions were for the homeless. A lot of them were seamen's missions, but the Grassmarket used to be synonymous with slum dwellings, and back in the days they would have sometimes 14, 15 people in individual rooms, and some of the rooms you were into had no windows, and landlords would lock people in at night. It had horrendous conditions to live in. And there's one of the old missions which is here, the one we just looked at here, but it's got on the side of the wall here, you can see here, it's thank God for all his gifts, 1616. So we are just, everywhere you go, you can pick out the history. And it's amazing to keep these buildings going. Now inside, they do have central heating. They are very modern. In fact, the whole of the Grassmarket now is now a desirable residence. We call them a des res. It's a desirable residence. Apartments here, you couldn't sell them back in the 1970s. They were so cheap. Now it's a very expensive place to live, like most of the urban areas in our cities. The last place we're going to visit is one of the wells. So the town council started to bring water in here because they're beginning to understand that people living in these conditions needed fresh water. Before the water came in, you would have boys and men who would carry water carriers on their back, and the water carriers would carry the water up to the 4th, 5th, 6th, up to the 10th and 11th floors, and you could get the fresh water from them. And those guys were called caddies. So I don't know if there's any golfers around online at the moment, but that's where you get the expression a caddy when you're golfing, the people who carry your golf clubs for you. So that's where it comes from, back from when the water carriers were here. But the water was brought into Edinburgh back in the end of the 1600s, and technology was developing even in those days. And so was the interest in hygiene. Although people were living cheek by jowl and above each other in terrible conditions, and the plague was common. Plague was endemic within our cities here. But bringing in the water helped people not only get fresh water to cook and drink with, but also to clean with as well. And this is one of the wells that we keep here, not functioning at all, so you don't get any fresh water from it, but it's just a nice memory to keep here. Something of a historic interest for tourists who want to come here and visit as well. And of course, this is where you come and you get all of the gossip. This is where you get all your water cooler stories. You used to find out who's doing what to whom, or who is illicitly selling stuff. And this is where you get all the news of where you can buy all your stuff that the smugglers would bring into the city, because this is one of the gates of the city. You get here all the know-how and all the gossip, all the juicy gossip that Edinburgh can provide.
I just noticing, Joe, these thistles, I suppose it's so normal to us, but there's everywhere because being a national plant, but you just see them, don't you, all over the place.
Thistles.
There they are.
The thistle is a national flower of Scotland,
yeah,
you can see it here. And we've also got a unicorn, which is another symbol of Scotland here. We've got Edinburgh Castle, and I believe this is St Margaret. This is meant to be St Margaret here. She's got a champagne cork on her head.
Lost her head.
She's like, maybe it's Mary Queen of Scots. She's lost her head. But that's a symbol of Edinburgh there as well.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed this little walk. It's a bit of impromptu. It's a St Andrew's Day. little walk, revisit the Grassmarket. We're going to go into a bit more detail. We'll take you into the cemeteries. We'll cover a little bit of the Old Town when we come back next week. Our tours are getting a little bit shorter because it gets dark early here in November and moving into December. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Look forward to your comments and your feedback. And it's really special for us to for Mary, our mentor, to come and award us our trophy here on the 30th of November, which is St Andrew's Day. So to all the Scots, all the Scottish diaspora around the world, happy St Andrew's Day, and I hope you have a great day.